Good morning, everybody. Hey, Mayor, how are you?
Good morning.
Yeah, Mayor Bob's doing okay too. And yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you, the various departments that are here, from cabinet head down to rank and file. Again, the tested and true. Are we on? Yep. The tested and true to a number of natural man-made disasters. The latest calamity has been defeating this COVID-19 pandemic, and I really appreciate everybody's efforts, especially the frontline people and the back office stuff that had to continue to be done as we never shut down operations here in the city. Today, we're going to have under Tim Sheehan, planning and economic development, building and housing code, and under Pat Sullivan, we will have the public buildings, parks, and then we're going to finish up numbers himself. Pat Burns, our comptroller, too. It's because of your efforts we've been able to move the city forward. I want to thank the award-winning finance team, the CAFO, TJ Plant, Deputy Chancellor Lindsay Hackett, Melanie Adobe, Budget Director. Melanie, I hope you're feeling better. She's living under the weather. Because of their efforts, we've been able to stay strong and stabilize with our finances, which I know doesn't sound sexy, but it's important. We try to continue to do those sexy projects. Reserve, we have to always be cognizant of, and we've also been able to keep the highest bond ratings in the city's history. We're very proud of that. I'm also very proud to say, through some dark budgetary times, and I will mention Tim Sheen here, the very early days when they were really dark and challenging to at least my administration started, where we had to come across with asking for level funding, 5%, 10% cuts. I'm happy to say that we're looking at level of base, and also asking the reason what more can we do help out our residents and business community in the city of Springfield. So that's on the table also too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to CAFO TJ Plant for any opening comments, and staff Tom asked for any opening comments. And after that, we'll go to Tim Sheen with his various departments. TJ.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is a little different than we've done in the past, where this is actually just the department has the ability to tell the story, kind of some of the highlights of the last year or two. And then if there are additional requests, this is the time to bring them up to the mayor as he starts to put the finishing touches on his FY23 budget. But this is really for the department heads to really get into detail right now. Thanks.
And it'd be important also, Tom,
Just look forward to presentations.
And I think to the viewing public, and also to present to the city council for the due diligence, that it's important to highlight all the things that each and every department has accomplished. That's important to highlight that. Stress that and what we're looking to do. I'm more than happy to be able to present this budget, and proud to present this budget. It's going to nearly, the budget's going to be well over, or it's going to be over $750 million. And projects, we're talking about $1 billion project, including our school side, $1 billion budget. So, Director Sheen, Timmy, I'll turn it over to you in whatever order you want to go with your various departments.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, our budget is primarily personnel. And to that end, in budget is reflective of a 2% cost of living adjustment. It also includes the Business Improvement District dues for $150,000, the Springfield Redevelopment Authority contractual payments for $65,000, professional consulting and appraisal services of $182,613, and a funding match for the Springfield Cultural Council for $10,000. The budget recommendations, we have an elimination of 2 positions, a senior project manager and a project assistant. That was ultimately during COVID, Those positions were combined to create a new deputy director of real estate position, which is needed in the department. We did go out to advertise for that during COVID, and as you would expect, there really wasn't a lot of feedback, but we would like to get back out and put that position back out for advertising because it is definitely needed. Additional reductions, if required, would come from professional appraisal and consulting services. This would hinder the department's operations considering the impact of economic development efforts being undertaken throughout the city. And the additional services requested, one of the issues that's we're beginning to deal with neighborhoods, we're really seeing that there's a need to, and this really is going to, what else could we be looking at? It's really coming to bear that we really should be looking at trying to beef up the neighborhood office and really start to staff that up to a level that we can have a degree of two-way communication in terms of the city being able to effectively get out its messages to the neighborhoods and its residents, as well as getting the intake from the neighborhoods and residents as to what their concerns are, getting those back into City Hall.
Even more so with the ARPA money, we 7 categories, we have a neighborhood category. It makes sense to do that, continue improvements for our neighborhoods.
So, one of the issues that we've kind of struggled with is trying to identify who in the neighborhoods, are those people that are the touchstones and that they can organize more people to actually come behind them. And ultimately create working bodies to advance as we get into neighborhood planning and things like that. I think it's going to be critically important that we look at that neighborhood department in a bit of a different manner.
I agree with you, Gene, and thank you. Next, a lot of times in the meeting, we hear about the big projects, the mega projects that are going on, and we do a lot of investment in our neighborhoods, and we want to do more in our neighborhoods. So, and I think TJ too, it's opportune time.
Well, funny, we actually just had a meeting on this morning, so
Okay,
and
good.
on this morning at 9, we talked about the exact need for using ARPA funds to really get out into the neighborhoods.
And the other issue, Mayor, is the planning department previously had a historic planner assigned to it. This is an issue that we also had a conversation on this morning. We're engaging PVPC on a contractual basis to provide those historic consulting services. But it would be helpful if we actually could look at it, an in-house position that's actually ours. I mean, as you know, so much of the city's inventory in terms of housing and actual buildings, are either on or eligible to go onto the register. That would be a recommendation that we would make as well.
I agree with you, and I know tonight we're going before the city council, saving another historic building, which we're doing an L project, which, simply put, is creating hundreds of jobs, is putting a property that has not been on tax rolls for nearly 30 years back on the tax rolls, and has been a spin-off domino effect for other investment by private developers in our downtown areas. We'll get into that a little further on our vision. And you're right, a lot of our buildings are historic. And we try to put out incentives to make it palatable to redevelop those buildings and also be respectful to the neighborhoods and residents. There's times where we've had to have building commissioners that's like get involved because the building has been in such disrepair that it's been a detriment to the neighborhood and has to come down. But this is important. Again, being able to save and make that Port Square 31 thrive. I mean, hundreds of jobs, tax base coming back to tax rolls hasn't been on for 30 years. And the message sent about a development project that said would never get done. Will COVID-19 again is, I think Director Sheen will go into it. Many of the projects we have, cost escalations, supply and material chain delays have occurred. So these are both good positions, especially with the ARPA money in the neighborhood investments. historic planning, especially going after grants. So, Tom?
Timmy, are we contracted with the PVPC for their consulting service?
We are, we have, currently have a contract with them.
So what are you hiring?
We don't
Kind of,
No, it's basic, if we had a position come in, we would basically cancel.
So it'll be like a watch. It's a
And we
watch.
have a 30-day notice provision for cancellation.
that seems like, especially here, would be like kind of specialty pieces that might be difficult. I don't know how many of those people are out there.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, the person that does it for PVPC is a Springfield resident.
All right, there you go. Bingo.
Answer my question.
I think
There was some scheming going on.
Okay. So and beyond, above and beyond that, Mayor, as you know, the department, in terms of my division, is now advancing two programs under ARPA. One is the Neighborhood Reinvestment Program. That is up and working with all the neighborhoods right now. We're engaged in multiple walking tours, both in the north end and the north.
Orchard coming up, yeah.
We've done East Springfield, and we're in the process of getting applications in and processing those as quickly as possible. And we also have the Build Back Springfield program, which I would anticipate. Again, you know, this is an important issue for Springfield in terms of its intent is to deal with historic properties for adaptive reuse. And we are getting significant applications in now for that. And I would expect that coming to your desk in the weeks ahead will be a number of projects that are actually excellent projects.
The projects too, just for the viewing public, again, you always hear about mega projects, we'll have something else coming up. A lot of these projects are right in the heart of neighborhoods, whether it's the neighborhood itself or the business district of the neighborhood. So we take it seriously about investing in our neighborhoods too. Director Sheen, if you can go into too, and as we speak about domino effects, properties that we're temporarily holding on to across from MGM, shortly I know we're going to put in RFPs that, and that'll be for private development and keep them on the tax rolls and be beneficial to the downtown quarter, south end quarter, and be conducive with MGM working with us. On top of that, the new Civic Center garage work will start shortly on that, and I know sometimes people ask on those effects, but maybe just a little quick update.
Yes, Mayor. So in this whole area around the casino, we undertook a master plan, I want to say about 2 years ago. That master plan has now evolved into an amendment to the Court Square Urban Renewal Plan, which is an extensive amendment. And ultimately, the properties that the city acquired, two on Main Street, two fronting on Main Street and one on Stockbridge, are incorporated into that. As you indicated, it's the thought process that we would be going out for an RFP for redevelopment of those properties. But in order to articulate to the development community what we want and the guidelines associated with the redevelopment around those properties, it's critically important that the urban renewal plan, ultimately this amendment to the urban renewal plan, be adopted and approved by both the city and the state, so that we have the powers associated with the plan and to be able to do the implementation work that we're looking for in terms of activating the Main Street and the ground floor of many of those properties that are in the district. And also looking at having a dual loading corridor that's activated as opposed to just the MGM side. So that is our objective, and we are looking at adaptive reuse of those properties. As you and I have had this conversation many times, there's a sense within the marketplace that there's a significant amount of B and C office space that is vacant, that is ultimately hurting the Class A market. So we really want to be looking at closely what can actually be done with those properties, that might be a little different than office. And you could have a situation where you have some level of office with housing as well, and then ground floor activated uses. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible to what the market wants.
We want to, like you said, activate the downtown sidewalk areas there. We're going to spin off on that. The restaurants, we're going to continue with the outdoor dining. Whereas I know the state is technically moved yet, but that's something we want to be able to do. And then those projects there, again, would be huge job creators again. And keep those properties on the tax rolls and spin-off effects on that. And then the Civic Center Garage has been a great collaboration. I thank Tim, TJ, Chief Staff Tom, with the State Secretary Heffernan and Governor Baker. That's been talked about for a long time to finally get that, not only for Mass Mutual Center on events there and beloved T-Birds, but it's a vital parking facility for the business community too.
Mayor, if I might, I clearly want to indicate that the leadership of the Mass Convention Center Authority has been absolutely fantastic. They have had the city at the table every step of the way. They consider this a partnership with the city in terms of the garage construction. We are in unison in terms of our planning. As you know, we're doing significant planning work for Court Square in terms of rehabilitating Court Square. They also are looking at how Bruce Landon Way ultimately is going to get more activated and how they can utilize that for pre and post game or shows as a congregating spot. So it kind of becomes like Ariake Way.
I got to tell you, Saturday night I was walking to the T-Birds games and hot table that we were walking together. I'm so excited. Business people and restaurateurs are very excited for what we're looking to do. We mentioned 31 Elmwood Court Square, the other activities, because if we active, it means you have people staying downtown or coming downtown, which means you're going to spend money. And that helps us market, bring different and eclectic businesses downtown area, which is good for tax revenue, tax base. Helps everybody out, whether it's in residential areas. And people forget, Kim, you say it all the time, downtown is a residential neighborhood. So that's really good. Anything more on the planning and exercise?
No, I think that's it, Mayor.
Any further on it too? And TJ Tommy?
Oh, I covered everything that I would have asked about, so appreciate it, Tim.
Okay, so Director Sheehan, now you want to go into the building division of that's 11 code enforcement. And I want to thank Director Sheehan, and his leadership, Building Commissioner Steve Desolette, and Housing Code Director Dave Cotter. Because I do always hear from the business community that they like doing business here in the city of Springfield. Because we try to fast track. We have meetings, whether meetings at your place or we have meetings in my office. Everybody at the table, finance, especially on major projects, A, B, C, D, and subset projects, and very workable with our building department inspectors and then Dave Cotter, which is that's code enforcement. It's tough at times here, but always willing to work with property owners that are willing to work, and if not, then we have to go to court. So I hear that a lot about people like doing business in Springfield. Can't make everybody happy, but Steve, how you doing with the building side?
Good. We try to be business friendly as possible there. But permitting, as you say, new businesses, existing businesses. Currently, our total request is $1,915,179. That's for 8 full-time employees, which is along with our budget request, 28 full-time employees consistent with that work. Also includes the 3% cost of living adjustment, the call for bargaining employees. That also includes the funding and necessary funding and operational expenses in there. GPS monitor for the cars. So, contractual obligations for uniforms. For costs, for required continuing education for all the inspectors. Budget reductions, no reductions necessary due to the FY23 level service request being less than our budget. If you have any reductions, it will come down to basically we're 97% full-time employees.
Yeah.
Everything else is obligational, actual. We do have additional service requests this year in our budget for new books.
Sure.
Coaching, that's $3,000. Possibly we're looking at the cost of rental boards. The cost there for $14,000. Inspector.
Is that the,
Yes.
short-term rental, yeah, 'cause I mean, some run legitimate short-term rentals, some do not, and that turns into a very negative aspect for our neighborhood, so I'm glad that we're pursuing that.
It's been a long-term problem. The moving houses that
Yeah.
mixed in with some short-term rentals.
And the software takes away some of the burdens and admin aspects of monitoring the properties that are on. Basically telling people that are coming into the system their compliance, what they have to do to be compliant. And it gets them into a database so that it's constantly updated.
Yeah, their software actually monitors what's out there, and all the vendors that's being advertised in the city, so that's about 100 short-term rentals being advertised in the city, on VRBO or any of these other websites. And their software being acknowledged. If there's any compliance problems here, this is actually a huge jump for us. Software or licensing.
Steve, is that GPS monitoring, they already been installed? in those?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was contractual.
That's what.
Yeah, that's actually referred to, even on just compliance side for me, but even on the fact where we have false accusations, I see employees. all the
Yes.
time. I'd say 90% of the time.
Don't for that.
It's actually working the city side, false accusations. Employee calls an hour or send something. Okay.
I think people forget at times too, a while ago, through the calamities we had, the tornado, the gas explosion, Steve, yourself, and all the public safety, health people, we're going night and day.
Yeah.
That almost time for a while. So I know we're well over a decade now, but remind people on that. I don't mind constructive criticism, but that's important aspect.
On the housing code side, we have a budget request of $1,128,000. 2.5 full-time. Budget request highlights include an increase of 2 LTUs. Part of this for the clerical staff and the inspector. Percent cost of living adjustment, that's in the budget request. Funding for all necessary operational expenses, $110,000.
That's been, that's a big program. I was wondering, we received one. Turns when you have to especially in a residential area.
With all contractual obligations on the housing side, safety equipment. Continue funding for GPS, that's on the housing side. Increase funding for the cost of municipal lien reports. Funding for Cdbg program for homeless prevention through its receivership. Budget reductions due to more than 80% of budget being allocated to personal services and reduction of staffing. program manager salary of 28,000. Funding is covered in this. FY22 required elimination.
Can you comment a little bit on both your divisions about staffing? I know typically the building and housing code departments have had trouble getting and maintaining staff. How are you doing right now?
Right now, we're down 4 building inspectors, so it's catastrophic right now. We're down thousands of properties. So let's see, take care of, let's say, majority of the apartment buildings are inspected. We have not been able to inspect as opposed to.
And we spoke, talking about moving, shifting up through longevity or through the contract quicker, moving the steps faster, to try to get a higher pay. But I think we're losing, I remember correctly, we're losing a lot of surrounding communities. We train them, we pay them, then they leave.
Yeah, we spend a lot of money on training and education because of the fact that it's fixed these 10 years ago. I'm still, even Springfield is a training ground, we pay for all our education.
Yeah, and then they,
Closest opening open up and they go, if we can get reduced on our starting pay, and then what we're looking at is trying to get from where the inspectors come in, because we have to hire certified inspectors at the very least, certified.
Yeah, we talked about doing that, because, you know, they cut their teeth here, there's a lot of action here, and then opportunities come up where they can make more money or similar money for less activity in smaller cities, smaller towns. So retention is something that we have to continue to pursue.
Yeah, I mean, if they can go to a smaller community for probably half the work they have.
Yeah, that's something we need to solve, but this has been a couple of years now that this has happened.
I mean, it's worked well because we did it with the zoning inspectors years ago.
Yeah.
We did it with the housing inspectors. Just look at market rate, our retention. It's not that we don't lose people retirement.
Right.
Yeah.
It's typical employee issues, but full inspectors is
But
just.
to we have an annual there as far as maybe opening that when you get certified too. That
If that's, we'll up the steps quicker.
Yeah, well, I mean, we want to hold that position where if you don't get certified, we're going to get for 17 months, 18 months, and you're still not getting certified. We found the power of state will just keep giving appeals. At that point, it just drags out. Something not going to work out. Keep on appeals with the state. But we want it as an incentive when somebody gets hired, get through the certification education program, and then you move to the top step. So people are looking at like, I'm certified now. Their job right off the bat.
Right. Thank you.
Anything else?
We covered the software. I think that's where we are right now. Building up with that. We're trying to look at maybe different initiatives.
Is that the
Sure.
that's
So we added the position to the budget this year.
Yes.
So we gotta get ahead of it, and then we're gonna work with IT to get the software
as soon as possible.
as quick as possible.
And then we're going to work on the retention aspect. Correct.
I mean, at some point, I'd like to have Bill talk to unions about doing exactly what we're talking about, which is eliminating one of the steps or a couple of the steps, move the top step quicker.
Yeah, just
I think the union's on board because if you look at even like my most recent retired building inspector, you just got frustrated.
Tim, anything else? I just have one question. I know with police superintendent Clapping on some panhandling, which a lot of times it's mental health issues, drug addiction. And with the BHN units too, Catholic charities that they or like within that one, besides the housing, the out there on the streets, more they done. And I know sometimes we can't force those individuals around corners, which COVID-19 has exacerbated the situation now. People say, why can't you just take them off the street? You can't literally force it unless there's a crisis or a criminal activity going on, but just on Catholic.
And I do think there's two differences between, or there's distinct differences between the homeless and those that are panhandling.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you know, somebody that's panhandling, make the assumption that they're homeless.
They're not single.
Because some of them are not. But our rapid rehousing numbers have been incredible. They're way up. And that's the work that Catholic Charities has been doing, working with the homeless to get them rapid rehousing, then try to move them to more longer term housing solutions. But we've done huge numbers in terms of moving homeless into rapid rehousing.
So I do see some of them that they're not homeless, they're just somewhere. Looking to make a quick walk down.
According to the C3 units, the issue is they know they cannot be removed
Yeah.
for anything other than the cause.
Right.
So they will be in your face about it. And I know the C3 unit, certainly Forest Park's neighborhood, is because it's become a problem with the axe.
Actually,
And
Lennox Street, some of the islands and some of the avenues,
Yeah.
besides Mill and Locust, and Lower Belmont, and just on Hall of Fame Way, East Columbus, Avenue. They're known to the department.
Yeah, some of them cause traffic
They do,
hazards.
and I'll call for their own good, going out of cars for their own good, but also it's aggravating to drivers. And I know many times female drivers that get a little more aggressive. That's a different story. So, but we're trying to open some rapid housing, Catholic Charities, mental health, BHN. But as Director Sheehan and some are not homeless, they're just working the system.
We're doing that at the intersection, we're at 3 young guys.
Up there?
We sit there, have lunch and watch them switch up shifts, come out of the car and take the car. They would take the shift for a while.
That's a hustle.
With mental health, though, we are actually looking to have more services coming through the housing division for mental health. We know that there's some target neighborhoods that we really need to be incorporating services, mental health services in our planning for the various neighborhoods as well.
the ARPA funds are really available to address. Mental health is a huge issue to address through the final law or final rule set up by Treasury. We should take advantage of that for all the mental services citywide.
I mean, I'll just give the example of spring at school. I mean, we know that that's not really a homeless problem. That's a mental health issue. We really need to engage with mental health services to bring those people, have them engage with those folks to try and figure out what services do they need and how can we get them to it.
Yeah, and we'll have to help whenever we can.
And on Spring and School Street there too, with the drug activity, as you know, evident, we have videos too. Police have made a number of arrests there, and had one that was shooting gun police. Can't we go back to the court system? If it's addiction, we want to deal with that differently. It's criminal activity, the courts need to back us up and have to hold these. They are not holding these individuals back on the streets there. So, but on the mental health services, we have the ARPA money. And, that's one. And the other thing too, you didn't hear a lot about it, but we have a cold weather response team, which means you didn't hear a lot about it because all those departments and the nonprofits activate, they work together. Knock on wood, we didn't have any tragedies over the winter period around the streets. All right. I think in the very near future with the opioid settlement monies that will come in, we'll have some further announcements on how to deal with that situation from a public safety, public health aspects.
But internally, the process of trying to engage with the homeless folks is exceedingly well. In terms of our our outreach.
And this is strictly on homes, and I have to also commend the division with home enforcement, Dave Cotter, who sometimes will have some minor encampments. We go in there with the whole team, because we want to help these individuals get rehoused.
And the police departments and.
They're an important component of that, because that's detrimental to a neighborhood. This is just- Is there anything else to Shane, Commissioner? No.
Oh, thank you. Probably update cards.
Yeah, I know. That's gonna be,
Tough loss. That's a big tough loss.
we'll figure it. He's done it. During the tornado rage, he was literally sleeping in his car down south of there. But we'll find that close transition. There's nothing else to me. Steve, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you and your team's efforts. Thank you, guys. Next on the array,
Good, I know. It's okay.
I'm gonna go with having had Pat Sullivan and team. I know that John Kerrigan's on, Pat Sullivan.
No, you can identify the guy.
And Pat's team. There, Pat, did you want to go with parks first, or you want to go with facilities?
If you want, I can kind of combine the two together if you want.
That's fine. That's good. I don't care, Tom, if you have anything.
I'll at least do the highlights that way. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, TJ and the finance team. Our grant program has become the backbone of the department, both for parks and facilities. We've got created over the last 2 years and getting additional grants for our municipal buildings with the study on the City Hall windows. And now we just completed a study on Old First Church. John's put together a huge ESCO project. He's worked this past year and been very successful. And we thank TJ and the mayor for your support on that. And we're working with Dan Warwick and Pat Roach on the funding through the ESSER funds to fund that ESCO project. But that will be huge for the city and the school department. As you know, we've been successful with the MSBA grants. That gets our school buildings under control. And we have an active program there. I think you signed off on those on Friday. We have under the core Milton, we have Harena, White, and Washington. And then roofs are a big concern citywide. And for roofs for MSBA, we have Commerce, Indian Orchard, Sumner, Bolin, Glenwood, and Rebecca Johnson. And on the municipal side, we're working with TJ. Tapley Street is the biggest concern right now. If we can get that done before the upcoming next winter, that would be advisable. The CPA projects have gone very successful. We have over 30 active CPA projects. Many of them are going to start getting closed out. We also have in the pipeline $7.1 million in state grants for Greenleaf, Neal Park, the Springfield Bike Park, and Breckwood Pond. And we are also looking to a successful pool opening this summer. Those we get funding through Cdbg, and the Cdbg has been very important, and we appreciate the mayor, your commitment to that, to fund the matching requirements for these state or federal grants. And so it's a kind of a win-win by teaming those up together. The other thing through Cdbg, it's been successful, is the tree planting program. And we're looking to do East Springfield this upcoming summer is going to be the request for trees for that location. And then I think we're finishing up the Orchard Main Street for this past year Cdbg. But overall, the economy is really driving our budget increases this year. You've got about $300,000 in additional funding that's going to be required just to make us level funding on the facility side. Mainly for gas and just custodial products. And then on the park side, it's a $700,000 increase. That's for gasoline, but also anything fuel-based, oil-based, petroleum which is our fertilizers. So looking at the organic program, it might be a good time just to get off of all synthetic fertilizers once and for all. We're kind of studying those numbers as we speak to see if there would be a bigger cost saving getting rid of the synthetic fertilizer altogether. And then grass seed has just jumped up. Everything from playground equipment to just our operational needs have increased with the economy. So that's $1 million increase just with our day-to-day needs. For additional funding, we would like to add additional 3 custodians. So we're kind of on our wish list, 3 additional custodians on the municipal side. We're recommending new windows for the East Columbus Avenue building, the roof for Tapley Street. We've asked for $100,000 for new custodial equipment. We'd also like to get additional trucks or vans for our custodial crew and for our trades crew. We asked for an additional 4. We appreciate the equipment that we just got, but we feel that would help us in moving our custodians from building to building to get more work done. We also have put in for an increase for elevator repairs. They're aging, and as you just witnessed this past year with the City Hall, all our elevators are in need of repair. The other thing we've put in for this year is additional upgrades to fire stations and libraries, either to do small kitchen upgrades, painting, rug repairs. We've also asked for funding for the City Hall bathrooms and to start the process of designing the roof at Symphony and City Hall. That's approaching over 20 years old now, so that will be 2 to 3 years off. So we thought if we could get capital asset $500,000, get the design done. Then on the park side, we have a large wish list for parks. We'd like to increase the evening gym program now that COVID is over. So we would like to go to 6 sites with an evening gym program. We'd like to increase playground equipment repairs and then just general repairs to our fields. We need roofs across the municipal parks. We asked for $850,000 for those. The other important piece, and we've talked, Mayor and TJ, about this, an additional forestry crew. The crew has done a tremendous job, and we think the city would be well served to add 1 more crew to the forestry workforce, and not depending on that private vendor. We're getting good applicants, and under the leadership of Alex Sherman, we've done well in-house training, and we're getting good work done with those crews. The other thing on the municipal side for our golf courses, our irrigation systems are approaching 20 years old. So we're going to need new pumps for the irrigation systems, and dredging the ponds at both golf courses are going to be a requirement. We'd also like to add, Leslie's doing a great job at the Carriage House. We've got basically rentals all weekend long. So we'd like to go back to having a park maintenance craftsman for that building, but also for the Echoes building and Emma's house. So we would be well served by having someone kind of a handyman type position to maintain those historic buildings. We'd like to do environmental cleanup of our lakes and ponds to continue what we've started with the drawdown at Lake Massasoit, but to expand that with properly treating those the ponds across the city. We'd also like to add an additional seasonal ball field crew. We don't need permanent staff, but we do need additional manpower to get through the season to properly maintain our ball fields. So as we're renovating these parks, it's just creating a demand to keep them at those high standards. We're also looking at for money to renovate the bathrooms at Riverfront Park, repairs to picnic tables. We'd also like to add an additional sheriff's crew. We had kind of streamed that down, but the sheriff has started a tree trimming program, and we've actually hired them to do the tree work at the CPA project at Venture Pond. And we would also like to continue with our stump grinding crew that we added this year. So we felt that that was a better way of handling stump grinding. And I think we're over 100 stumps being taken care of. And we appreciate Mary having the funding available to purchase that stump grinder. And the residents are very happy that that work is finally being done across the city. So we've got a sheriff's crew doing that stump grinding. We'd like to make, due to the success, keep that as a permanent part of the park operation. So that kind of gives you just a broad overview of where we are with grants. And like I said, without those grants, I don't think our parks and buildings would be looking as good. And that gave you a quick overview of we had extra money where we could spend it effectively for the taxpayers.
Thank you, Director Sullivan, and I see Pete Krupsek's there also, and John, and the rest of the group. I just a couple of noting, I know we're gonna be doing some major park improvements to Plum Park, the Horticultural Center, and Walker Stadium, which Congressman Neal has come across with a federal level share. And I also want to, the STUMP program, I hear about all the time. The residents are very happy with that, and partner with Sheriff and coaching. Lake Massasoit, I know the Reed's Landing was very happy, Pat. You and I went out there, and that water level is going to come back sometime, Pat, in June, I believe you said.
It might be going as soon as April. Pete's ahead a little ahead of schedule, and it might be by the end of April now.
And then I have heard Leslie at the Carriage House, people have had recent functions there are booking it, and great feedback on that. And that's being able to utilize that. The evening gym program is something I want to get done, because that's another proactive thing to keep our younger population active in constructive ways on that. And then Pat, you and John, on the MSB, it's just been tremendous. I just signed off on some stuff this morning too. We have a great relationship with Treasurer Goldberg and Jack McCarthy, and everybody, the whole team. And it was mentioned, Catherine Craven, who was great to us when she was there. Now she's in a different capacity, that Springfield leads the way in the state, and that she's singing Boston 0 is never on it. So we're going to continue to do that. And one more thing I want to say.
I think you're approaching 700 million now that with that Brightwood Lincoln School and the DeBerry Homer there. So we've done well with that program.
The whole team has done well. There's one other thing. And, on a side note, what's going on at the courthouse, at Roderick Island Courthouse, a testament to our team, Pat, and your team, that Judge Mulvey, a couple first justice there, and Clerk Magistrate John Gay, had met with us a few times. And when we retrofitted all our buildings in a pretty swift manner during COVID-19 to make them safe, to preserve workforce, to keep our public safe. And even Bob Kirshner, who we brought in from teaching, is he from teaching Bond? Time Bond, on how good a shape, and we're not perfect, but how good a shape on municipal buildings and schools are. That's a testament to not only the investment in your team, but the preventative maintenance that we continue to do, which we stress to court officials a number of times. Doesn't matter, no matter what bells and whistles you put in it, if you don't do the preventative maintenance constantly, you're going to have the same problem. A lot of our buildings are older buildings, and we've got them offline on our schools. Pat, John, Pete, Brightwood Lincoln, which we're talking about 1898. Homer Street's coming offline, which was 1898, I believe, with the Barry Swan. And then I know we're going to continue to go on ESCO, which is good for not only bottom line in the budget, but environmental, green, and the repairs. I know roofing repairs, and we're going to continue with doors and windows and everything. So,
Mayor, when you did the first ESCO program, it was the largest in the state, and now this next phase of ESCO will top that first project. So we really appreciate that support of the funding, because that's what's keeping us ahead of the curve and keeping everyone safe in the building. So you're making the right investments across the city, and that's keeping it. And then the other thing I think people now can rest with the water shops dam being done. Dan Horn was done a number of years ago. You've kept two ends of the city now very safe by getting those dams done. And we've seen across the country when those dams breach, the havoc that it causes. And that's what would have happened here in Springfield had we done those two projects. So again, you and TJ and the team down there are finding the money so we can get this important work done.
Our whole team, and speaking of the parks, you know, people rave, especially on Forest Park. We're going to continue our program with Police Superintendent Clapper and Sheriff Nick Cochi on the patrols that we have there. We have some special other things that we're going to be doing and maybe expanding to other park areas too. But you know, we are, I say it about our libraries, one of the few communities in the country that continue to keep our neighborhood libraries, but one of the few that have kept all our parks, major parks and pocket parks open. And that's been tremendous. Pat, as TJ and Tom should say, I mean, I call you the Wizard of Oz. You always have a plan. Give him the money. He knows how to spend it. We're going to try our best to our abilities to try to accommodate. You're never at a loss for saying, I could use this, I could use that, all for the betterment of.
You just want 5 million more, Mayor. We can get it done for you. That's all.
I know.
That cost me money.
I know, but very visionary.
Don't cut it in half, TJ. I want the full 5 million.
I asked for 5, you know I'm gonna cut it in half.
I know. I'll change it to 10 then.
Set the table. And again, we're going to be doing updates on our sprayscapes. You know, we're keeping our waterways and pools open, but we can move down on sprayscapes improvements or new sprayscapes going up. You know, when you look at what we did at the old MCDI site, but the memorial park that we built there with the playground and sprayscapes. And we're going to have some active physical fitness things, programs and equipment in some of the parks, and some nice announcements coming from our boathouse, the riverfront, North End riverfront area too. So a lot of good things on the agenda. And I, again, stress again to the public and when we present to the city council for due diligence and questions, that it's important to cabinet heads and departments and lieutenants to, you know, remind of them and the people of all the projects we have done and more to be done.
On the pools and stuff, Mayor, we're going to do our 3rd training in April. So we're slowly getting applicants. No guarantee all sites can open this year yet. So we'll have, by May 1st, we'll advise you and TJ of how we're doing with staffing the pools.
In the era of
We are getting applicants, so that's the good news. I just don't know how far that'll stretch because some are phased out too.
Great resignation, it's tough to get people to want to work. So I'm glad we're being proactive, the lifeguards, and keep our waterway areas open.
Yeah, Joe Federico's done a great job running the training programs over the winter, so hopefully our fingers are crossed.
You hit everything, and I had the questions I had. I don't know, TJ or Tom, do you have any more questions?
You're good.
Okay, I know that wish list. Pat carries around that wish list and master plan in his back pocket all the time. Ready to go, whether on the local level, the state level, or the federal level. That's the Wizard of Oz team. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody from finance too for all your support.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, Pat, thank you.
Okay, to say that we can't do any of this stuff, we're going to bring up the comptroller now. Pat Burns.
Come on up.
Well, I think we're all done with that. John was with the.
Tough act to follow.
Did we, John was with facilities anyway, so Pat went over all the highlights. Okay, talk about institutional knowledge. Not the institutional knowledge. Pat Burns is, you and your massive team of, how many, Pat?
We are at 7. Right?
Yeah, massive team there. Way at St. Patrick's Day again. Nice events. Oil. And I do want to give a shout out because he's been very faithful Juan Latore, as I think every budget hearing, Jay, that we've had, Jay, Juan Latore has been on. You remember that stays very active, so Jay, Juan, thank you very, very much for being, I don't think you missed one. Appreciate that. So, TJ or Tom, I don't know if you have any questions at all or any comments. I know with Pat, this is not a sexy type position, but it's an important position. More checks and balances with our finance division. And,
That's a good job. That's not trouble.
Yes.
That's great.
He checks and balances us.
yes, we have, it's an award-winning overall finance team. All Tom wants to say, well, things have gone smoothly around. TJ, go ahead, Pat.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for rescheduling my turn.
I know you're trained. Yes.
I appreciate that. Comptroller's office, we have 8 positions budgeted. We have 1 vacant position, the office manager's position, which was recent retirement.
Fill that.
Yes, it's currently
Yeah.
being advertised. Also expecting retirement in July. So that'll be a position that to fill later on, early next fiscal year. Other than that, this is pretty standard. Additional $47 for our.
Jesus Christ, Pat.
You just got that in
$47. Hold on, I might have 37. You got 10?
That's your Pat's own, that's for $5.
I
Feel like
know.
you might be able to pull that off.
That's with Pat. Your other Pat asked for $47. You asked for $5 million.
Pretty much everything else is standard, office supplies, budget, training, travel for training. Copier lease, as I mentioned. It's really it. Said.
The only thing I want to just point out is the open checkbook and the monthly statements that Pat provides.
City council constantly updating.
It's definitely, just keeping an eye on the books and, when we close out the fiscal year, being the person to spearhead the free cash process. That's been valuable. That's
Yeah, and then the council is constantly updated on financial situations. So, well, I numbers, $47 is a tough ask. I think it's well over $750 million budget, but we will find them for you. And you're gonna fill those 2 positions. Any other questions? Comments? How she feeling?
She's doing well. I actually went to visit her last week. So,
Still was on. All right, well, listen, that concludes our budget hearings, and now we'll look forward to putting the overall budget together, taking the comments and needs of each and every department and do the best that we can to be respectful of our taxpayer dollars and continue to be efficient, effective, strategic, and compassionate. And then we look forward to making that announcement of what, as we normally say, what the budget buys, and then we'll give it to the city council. So diligence. We've been doing it at early dates, and we're trying to continue that trend. And we'll monitor what the state and federal, especially the state, but eventually they do come up with. You guys pretty good handle what we're sort of expecting.
House budget will be out in April, Senate budget out in May, and optional in June, so we'll have a pretty good sense.
And then after the council does their due diligence, I look forward to going before the council and looking for their hopeful approval of the overall budget. So everybody, thank you very much.